you feeling, my man? You feeling good?
I am. I am feeling good. How are you?
Good, brother. Good. Did you try that sausage link that they gave us at the barbecue place?
Oh yeah, knocked it right down.
Really?
Yes,
I wasn't. I have it in the fridge.
it was good. It was
It was
good.
good? Okay.
You said there was a kick to it. I actually don't like spicy stuff. I don't think it was spicy at all, but it was good. I enjoyed it.
Okay. All right. That barbecue place was good yesterday. What the hell was it called again? What's the name of that place?
Meat Boss.
Meat Boss. That's it. That was good, man. That chicken.
I'll be back.
Yeah. 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 Are we going today again?
Yeah.
All right. Let's get into, first of all, it's this whole Sean Payton thing. It was almost like it's like a shotgun wedding. Like, he didn't really want to go to Denver. He really wanted either Houston or Carolina. He didn't want that, reconstruction project with Russell Wilson. Denver really didn't want him. They were still going after other guys in DeMeco Ryans. It didn't seem like most teams wanted to give up the price, the salary, and then the power that you got to give up. But then Denver seems like they failed everywhere, and they had to settle for Sean. And then Sean didn't seem like he had many options, and so he had to settle for it all. So, I don't know. How do you view this mess?
I think Sean Payton ultimately decided, I'm a football coach and I want to coach football. And so he got back into it because financially he could have just stayed where he was. He could have stayed at Fox and the Saints would have paid him and Fox would have paid him. I think for Sean Payton, it was a matter of he wanted to get back into the game. And if he was going to do that, I don't know that Carolina was ever going to pay the price that the Saints were going to ask if he was going to stay in the division. So I think that was going to happen. The Cardinals, I don't think we're ever going to meet his financial needs. You start looking at why. Yeah, I mean, Houston, it's a home run for them with DeMeco Ryans, right? He played there. Yeah. He's extremely well thought of, and they don't have to give up anything to get him. They don't have to give up picks. Denver was desperate. Now, they wanted Ryans and they wanted Harbaugh, and they struck out on both, and then Payton was option number 3. I think this is one of the situations where you look at this and go, Denver is doubling and tripling down on this. They are so far in with Wilson at this point. What else are you going to do? I mean, you can't blow it up. You're contractually tied to Wilson. So I think they looked at it and went, look, might as well just keep going. Might as well just keep digging. Because if you're the Walton family who owns a team now, you have more money than God. You don't care about the money. You don't want to have the egg on your face.
That's it. That's all it is.
And they're just going to keep digging and digging and digging and hope they hit oil, and maybe they will. But I got to tell you, if you've ever been around Sean Payton for 5 minutes, Sean Payton and Russell Wilson in the same locker room, that just
that doesn't mix.
I don't know.
It mix.
I mean can you imagine Russell Wilson doing high knees on the plane with Sean Payton? I feel like by the time they landed, they would need a new quarterback. It's going to be something to watch.
Yeah. And I'm sure that conversation was had like, hey, I'm going to try to resurrect him, but if I can't, you got to understand I'm going to have to move on from him. So because he's going to have total control now of this. And so I was trying to explain this. Yesterday, I was hanging out with somebody from the NFL. It was explaining to me about this relationship that they had as general manager and agent, and how a player put both of them in a really difficult position and kind of fractured the relationship with them. And so I'm looking at this situation. When he's telling me this story, that's what popped into my mind. I go, man, this is what's happening. And I truly believe that the agent for Fangio agreed to a deal with the Dolphins. But in the process of all of that, while all the negotiations going on and Fangio's off doing whatever he's doing, he's getting a call from Shanahan. He's getting a call from Payton. Hey, we're back alive again. I might be able to go. And so then by the time the agent calls back and says, hey, we got a deal done with Miami, he's like, whoa, wait a minute. I'm not ready to sign anything yet. So now that puts the agent in a bad position, the Dolphins in a bad position because they think they've got a deal in place. But behind the scenes, while the agent was negotiating with the Dolphins, he didn't know the other things that were brewing, and all of a sudden developed in several hours after he ends up talking to his client. I kind of get that feeling. And as I said last week, I never thought the Dolphins were the first option. I always thought they were the third option behind Philadelphia, where his family lives, and he's consulting there, and then behind San Francisco, which he has a relationship with Shanahan, and that is already a ready-made defense. It's his defense too, by the way. It's the same kind of defense he runs. So it becomes a little bit more seamless. And then Miami, who, while he knows of McDaniel, he has no relationship with McDaniel.
Right.
That's why he's third. So now you start to look at this whole thing, and Denver gets into the mix. Well, guess what? Now you've got that Sean Payton thing in there. Really, Miami is the fourth option to all of this. Philadelphia, the defensive coordinator staying, so that thing's gone. San Francisco's open. Denver is now open because Sean Payton has all the control. So, Fangio's going back to a different owner in Walmart than the one that fired him. And the GM that's there will have no power anymore because the guy that's bringing him there is Sean Payton. So Fangio can go back to the place he got fired because he's going back with a shit ton of leverage. To me, not that I'm just spitballing here. I kind of get that's what happened. I don't know. You take a stab at it.
Oh, I think, a lot of times, players and coaches, they're the last ones to know about a lot of this stuff. I mean, that sounds crazy. It's true. I remember a couple of years ago, I reported that Patrick Peterson and the Cardinals were going to part ways. It was the day after the Super Bowl at the Bucs and the Chiefs. And I had been told that during Super Bowl week by somebody who was unassailable that, look, it's not going to happen. He's not going to go back. It's not going to be a reunion. And he went on his podcast the following day, maybe it's 2 days later, and basically was like, it's a dirty rumor. It's not true. And I understood why he said it, but I knew it was true. It wasn't going to happen. He was not going to play for the Arizona Cardinals again, and he ended up going to Minnesota. And I had a few people ask me, why'd you report it? Why'd you go with it that early? I was like, A, because I knew it was true, and B, because Patrick Peterson is probably the last one to know. The team knows first, the agents know first, people around the agent, the team know.
It's happened to me. I know.
Yeah. I mean, a lot of times, the player, in this case, a coach, they get a call from the agent, goes, hey, got a deal done for you. It's all set. And then you get the final approval from the player or from the coach. Are you good with it? Okay, yeah, I'm good with it. Fine, great. I think there's something to what you said about, all of a sudden, these other things open up, and maybe Fangio even was on board with the Dolphins, and then maybe say, you know what, let's see what happens here. Let's see.
Maybe he was on board with the Dolphins, but he got a call from Sean. Exactly. He got a call from Kyle, and he's like, whoa,
don't do anything yet. Wait till our season's over in the case of San Francisco. Or Peyton maybe calls him up and says, hey, look, wait a minute. I might actually take this job. I didn't think I was in, but now I might be in. So hold on a minute. That stuff happens.
Hey, listen, the Clippers, the forward.
With the
Mavericks. Jordan. Right, and he backed out after. Well, he didn't sign. He agreed, and then backed out of there. By the way, I can top your Patrick Peterson story. Have I ever told you the Daryl Porter story?
No.
Okay. So his son now plays in the league, Daryl Porter. So Daryl Porter Sr., okay, I've told this story on the platform before. I apologize for those of you who have heard it. Those of you that haven't, get ready. One of the worst days of my life as a reporter. So I'm a beat guy covering the Dolphins every day, all that stuff. So I get word that Daryl Porter is getting cut. So I reported on QAM, hey, Daryl Porter is getting cut, . So we're about ready to go into the locker room, okay? And so when we walk into the locker room, Daryl Porter is there. So we all rush over to Daryl Porter, right? Because everybody heard about Daryl Porter getting cut. So guess who's asking the first question, right? Because it's my report, right? So everybody's like, all right, you're going to ask the question, right? Because Matt, you've been in locker rooms. When they cut somebody, are they in the fucking locker room?
No, they're not.
Okay. So I walk. So we look and so we all surround him, put a mic, and I look at Daryl and I say, "Hey, Daryl, I heard about it. I'm sorry. Can you talk a little bit about getting cut?" He looked at me and he goes, "What are you talking about?" Dave Wannstedt had not told him yet that he got cut. Dude starts kind of bawling right there, and I'm super uncomfortable now because I told him he got cut.
Wow, that's rough.
Yeah, dude.
For all involved.
Yeah. Now, is it your fault that you reported? Is it my fault that No, dude. I'm doing my job. I'm sorry. You know what I mean? But whose fault is it? You mean you haven't told the player? You allowed the media in? In fact, you weren't tracking that a reporter on the beat already reported that the player was cut, and yet you didn't go tell him? Like, what are you doing? You know what I mean? And so that happened to me also, dude.
It's a weird thing because then you get those people who are like, you don't know what you're talking about. I'm like, no, I do. Believe me. And this was years ago. This was a little bit before, like, I had reported a whole lot of stuff. So it's kind of like one of the first. And I just remember being like, I actually felt bad in a way because I was like, he's been there for years. He had this great career. Like, yeah, man, it's over. It's done. Like, you're not going back unless you're willing to take, $2 million bucks. Like, you're not going back. And obviously he went to Minnesota and he played well there for a few years. But the point is, your overriding point is, a lot of times these agents, they know. I mean, look, we always laugh about it, right? Like, so free agency starts and you get the tampering period. And the second the tampering period opens, some guy signs an $80 million contract. You're like, yeah, right, because they came to that agreement,
Right, 2 seconds.
2 minutes. Yeah. Like, it cracks me up. The reality, like, I remember talking to somebody once. They signed their client signed the big deal. I asked them, so when did you agree to that contract? And of course, they kind of jokingly, oh yeah, whatever, March 10th, the first day of tampering. So when did you really agree to it? Like, mid-January.
Right. Yeah.
I mean, it's just the way it is. It's the business.
Yeah.
So
it might have been at the Senior Bowl. It might have been at the East West Shrine game where you agreed to that deal.
I'm sure it was.
That's what I'm saying.
Look, you've been to the combine many times. I've been to the combine. Those deals are done by the time they leave the combine. Like, the big contracts, those are like 80% of them are done on a napkin at the Marriott. It just are. And then it's like, all right, listen, we'll get back to each other. We'll fill out the details and we'll fill out the structure and all that stuff. But I mean, but again, it goes to the point. That's a situation where the agents get back from Indianapolis and call the player and go, hey, by the way, man, got you 4 years and $60 million over in Minnesota. Okay, great. Awesome. I mean, the players always have to sign off. The coaches have to sign off, of course. It's their careers. But largely, I mean, you have an agent for a reason. Those guys are worried about just doing their jobs. Right. You get me the next opportunity. And that's fine. I'm good to go. That's how most of this stuff works for these players and these coaches.
And I know the Dolphin Nation doesn't want to hear this, but I really feel like, they're the third option right now. How do you look at what's happening right now?
I mean, I don't know with Fangio. Would he go back to Denver? Like, just a pride thing? Like, would he go there? I mean, that's the question I have with that. I think if you're him, San Francisco makes all the sense in the world. I mean, he has the relationship with Shanahan, and they're ridiculously loaded. Like, if you're him, what job do you have to do, right? You show up, you roll the balls out, and say, all right, hey, guys, here's my defense. Go get it. But I think, like most things, though, it's going to come down to, who gives the best contract, who's willing to give the most money. I mean, like San Francisco, as you pointed out, like it's a huge option for him. At the same point, family on the East Coast, like maybe at this point in his career, he'd prefer to stay on the East Coast. I don't know. It's hard to say.
He's got family in Philly and mom in Florida. So that keeps him there. But he has the girlfriend in California.
I mean, maybe at this point it's worth for him staying on the East Coast, But I mean, we always have to factor in the human side of it. Look, I think the Dolphins are in the running, but the Niners make a ton of sense. And I think it just depends on, really, for him at this point in his life, what's a better fit for him. And, does one side step up financially in a way another one doesn't? I mean, let's face it, in this business, money talks. Who's going to offer up the most better?
What'd you think of the trade for Peyton?
I wasn't surprised. I had asked a handful of people throughout the league over the last couple of weeks, first round pick, and most people said, yeah, that and a little bit more. And I think that's about what it was. I mean, it's a first and a second, but the Broncos are getting a third back. So realistically, It's a first and change.
It's a switch, right?
Yeah. Look, I think Peyton's a very good coach. I also think that the Broncos have given up so much draft capital because it's not just
it's the Russell Wilson.
It's the Russell Wilson picks. And
you just gave away the Chubb pick that you got.
And you gave away Bradley Chubb. To get that pick. So it's my feeling on Denver is I see all these people saying nationally, well, they have all this talent. Now he's going to turn around. What talent do they have? They had 2 Pro Bowlers last year. I mean, look, I like Tim Patrick and Cortland Sutton as much as the next guy, but they're not Pro Bowl players. No. They're not. They're not even close in the AFC. Are either one of those guys top 10 receivers in the AFC?
No,
they're not. Javonte Williams, God bless him, hopefully he can come back, had a horrible knee injury. He's a running back. To me, I was surprised Peyton came back, but again, money talks, and maybe he just felt like, look, I don't want to sit out another year. Okay, fine. He's 59 years old. Might want to get in sooner rather than later. But I do feel like for Denver, is he a very good coach? Yes. At the same point, would I have wanted to give up draft compensation after all that I just gave up?
Yeah.
No, especially when I'm looking at my own division and saying, okay, I've got Mahomes who's 27 years old, and the Chiefs are loaded to the hilt with draft capital moving forward and cap space. The Chargers have all their picks, and they have a young mid-20s quarterback who just made the playoffs for the first time, and they seem to be on the upswing. If I'm Denver, I think for the marquee and for exciting the fan base, sure. Do I think in actuality they're all of a sudden going to win 13 games in the next year or two? No, I don't. I think they will be better, but I think their ceiling is competing for a wild card spot. And I just don't know that that's worth all the stuff they've given up. In fact, I know it's not worth all the stuff they've given up. So better, yes, but I still think it doesn't have a lot of sizzle.
Not as much sizzle on the retirement speech this time around for Tom Brady. Got a little emotional there on the beach and everything. I think it's the right move. I think it's the right time for him. I think it was the right time last year is when he should have retired. But I give him credit for not pulling the Muhammad Ali and the Joe Namath and the, Sugar Ray Leonard, and you're hanging on just too long, and then you really see the bottom fall off. I thought the bottom was falling off this past year. I saw him miss a wide open Mike Evans many times. And it was just like, yeah, that's not him, because if there's one thing he's always been is dead ass accurate and on time always. And that was starting to fall behind. I think he finally made the right decision.
I think for Brady too. First of all, I agree with you. Secondly, I think it got to a point where if you watched him this season, one thing that was really evident is he just did not want to get hit anymore. The ball was just out immediately. And I think that's why he was inaccurate at times. The ball, he wasn't going to wait as much as he normally would have. And, look, the reality is, and I just wrote a column about this right before we came on, what does he have to prove? Nothing. I mean, nobody's ever had the career that guy's had. Brady's fascinating, I think, to most people. At least he was maybe before, he played for a quarter century, but for a lot of his career, because really he was like the everyman. I mean, he was lightly recruited. He wasn't, he wasn't the top prospect. He gets to Michigan. He's got to fight for snaps his whole career. He's a 6th round pick. He's a guy who looks like a human bag of milk at the combine, and he can't run. And nobody.
And by the way, just a couple of years before him, there was a guy by the name of Drew Henson,
right,
that was supposed to win 87 Heismans in 2 years, and be the number 1 pick and go win 8 Super Bowls and become the greatest quarterback of all time.
Didn't work.
So it's funny how he got all the hype and never did anything, and yet that guy never got any of the hype and accomplished everything.
Yes. I mean, I just think, look, Brady, people always compare him to Jordan, and I don't, because I think Jordan was physically just incredibly gifted, and obviously then married it to an incredible will, and you have the best player ever.
Amen.
Brady's more like Bill Russell, who just got everything out of himself all the time and then became the sport's greatest winner. Like, nobody's won more than Bill Russell. I mean, 11 NBA titles.
Right.
Nobody's ever won more than Brady. Brady does not have the physical talent that Aaron Rodgers has, but Brady gets everything out of himself all the time, every day. And that's why I think if people are honest with themselves, maybe a lot of Dolphins fans can't stand him for obvious reasons, but he's so revered because he's the ultimate competitor.
Yeah.
I am glad that he walked away in the sense, look, I didn't want to go watch him play for the Raiders, in 2023 and go 7-10.
It would have been a disaster, dude.
He can't block. They have no defense. Like, I'll tell you what, the saddest guy in the world today is Josh McDaniels, because I don't know where they're going now. I mean, calling up Derek Carr and, hey, I'm sorry.
Well, no, not only that bullshit about, they could play hardball with him. Dude, he's got a no trade clause. Right. So he can screw you in the end and say, I'm denying everything. You're going to have to release me because here comes that big ass fat number and I'm going to go pick my team now. And guess what? You get no compensation now. So really, in the end, if I'm him, I make sure I tell the Raiders, hey, if you don't trade me where I want to go, I'm denying every single trade. I already said goodbye. We're done here. Yep. So, to me, the Raiders, again, typical Raiders, a lot of stupid shit that goes on there, and it continues that way. Yeah.
I mean, look, the Raiders, if you're putting all your eggs in the basket of a guy who's going to be 46 when training camp starts, I don't care who he is, I mean, you got a problem. It just makes the offseason a lot more interesting in some ways because now what are they going to do? Who knows? I mean, here's the Raiders in a nutshell. They need a quarterback now in the worst way, and the best quarterback who's on the market is currently their quarterback. I mean, how do you even square that? Like, what do you do with that? But they're the Raiders. So now you say, okay, are they going to go all in the draft on a quarterback? Because, I mean, what do you do?
Well, we got plenty here in the Senior Bowl.
If you're looking for a quarterback, don't come to Mobile.
God, no.
I mean, it's rough. It's rough. There's a lot of talent out there, but it's not at that position. Couple of day 3 guys and a lot of camp arms. But yeah, man, look, it's now if you're the Bucks, do you just blow this thing up sky high and just trade all? You have to, right? I mean, I think that's the move. If I'm the Bucks, I'm not kidding when I say this. I would trade every single guy who has any value, who I can trade without eating it, some ungodly amount of cap.
I think you're smart on that one. I love that idea because you got to load up with picks so you can turn this whole thing around. Yes, exactly.
If you're Tampa, there's no reason to lie to yourself. And if you're Jason Light, you should have job security. You just won a Super Bowl. Like, there's no reason to be moving on from him. And if you start looking at the numbers here with the Bucks, like Mike Evans, they can't really trade because his contract makes it almost impossible. But like
Godwin, you could.
Godwin, you can trade. Godwin, you could trade, save $8.5 million. You could trade Carlton Davis. You'd save $11.5 million. Donovan Smith, 9.9. Like, you keep going down the list.
No, the linebacker,
Devin White.
Devin White is a
$11 million, not an ounce of dead money. Like, if I'm them, I'm not kidding. Anybody who they can move who's not just going to kill their cap, gone. First of all, by the way, as they sit right now, they're $55 million over the salary cap.
Oh, God.
So, I mean, you might as well just start it. The Bucks should take out money for a billboard and put up a for sale signs. Big anybody. All must go.
I agree.
And I think that's what's coming.
Yeah, no, I'm with you there. And again, for Brady, I think that was definitely the right decision. What do you got going on Fansided, bro? Tell them about it.
Just wrote the column on Brady, and then of course this week we did not have Stack in the Box because we're down here in Mobile. But there was the column Stack in the Box on Monday. I have a daily notebook coming out of the Senior Bowl this week. First one went up yesterday. I'll have another one today. Also going to have a couple different little features on some of these players. So check that out. And then next week at the Super Bowl, I will be down in Glendale all week long covering the Chiefs and the Eagles, be at Radio Row, be at the pressers, be at Media Night. So check it out. And if nothing else, just follow me on Twitter because you can find it all there right at my name.
It's a beautiful thing. Follow him at Matt Verderame. Matt, I'll catch you in a little bit at practice, my friend. Appreciate you.
Sounds good. Take care.
You got it. There you go. Red Recover, baby. The wraps right now are 50% off. Take advantage. All right, you're looking for an elbow wrap, a shoulder wrap, a neck wrap, knees, ankles. 50% off. Go to redrecover.com. All right, I'm telling you, we got wraps for the dogs, big dogs, small dogs. You know, they have problems with their hips as they get older. This will help. One of our listeners has a Yorkie that broke their both legs in the back, and they had to implant some what are those like those steel rods in there, and so he's had issues walking. Right, it's been bothering him since he got the Red Recover wraps. It has changed, and now he's got more life. He gets to move around. And there's something about that, man. When your dog is happy, it always brings a smile to your face. I know how it is for me as a dog owner. I've got 4 at home, and they just bring a big old smile to my face. I know tomorrow night when I get home, I'll get bombarded by them, and that'll be a lot of fun. I'm looking forward to that. But if you're looking out for yourself, you got an old injury, a scar, red light therapy can help scars disappear. Not an old scar. I'm talking about if you just had surgery and you're worried about that scar healing, get a wrap, man. That can help out. We got the wraps for the ladies where you can put on your face for those crow's feet, as they say. Red light therapy helps out in so many ways. Back injury or some surgery or even to optimize your workouts. Go to redrecover.com and get 50% off.
This is the